Hey guys, it's Cameron here with Emerson House Buyers. Every week I bring you tools, tactics, strategies, lessons I've learned, things that have helped me build up a sizable portfolio in about 2 years and now manage that portfolio. Today I'm taking a question from Alfonso. This is a continuation from, this is kind of his second part of his question from a few weeks ago. So if you guys haven't seen that video, Alfonso asked a question about getting MLS access. The second part of the question is, once he has these comps or maybe access to the MLS, how does he go about estimating the price of the ARV of the subject property? So we have a very simplistic process that we use to help us identify ARV, or after repair value. And really it's worked quite a bit for us. We don't try to over engineer or do anything. That's just stick simple. We have a few steps, and I'm going to share those steps with you guys today, get an accurate ARV. There's only been one house that I have not hit or I guess undervalued the ARV, meaning that it's always appraised for at least what I thought it would or more, save for one house. And that one house had a pool, and it was crazy. We put some things in place to make sure that doesn't happen again. So I'm going to take you through this process. Step number one, it's got to be in the same area. So what does this say? Area. No crossing major roads. So basically, guys, want to make sure that if your neighborhood that you're looking at has a major highway that runs north and south or east and west, you don't want to take other properties from other places on that or across that major highway. So in Houston, that's say I-10, you have a major highway, you would only want to stick, if it's south, you want to stay south of I-10. If it's north of I-10, then you'd want to stay north. You can kind of get smaller and smaller from there, but the first step is just taking the neighborhood or maybe around that area and not crossing any major roadways. So that's the first one, the area. Then the second one, step number 2 that we look at is the age. So number 2 is the age, plus or minus 5 years. This means that if the property was built in 2010, then we're going to filter for properties between 2005 and 2015, plus or minus 5 years. Now, the reason we do that is because most houses that were built in a similar neighborhood during a similar time frame have the similar finishes and features and everything. So this allows us to look at maybe a neighborhood or a couple subdivisions and narrow down to similar homes that were built during that era, plus or minus 5 years. Number 3, square footage. And we use square footage, SF, plus or minus 20%. So if you're evaluating a 2,000 square foot property, we would go down and look at properties from 1,600 square feet to 2,400 square feet, right? Minus 20%, plus 20%. And that gives you a good range to play with because, you know, I don't personally filter between 1-story, 2-story. I mean, you can get that granular if you have a lot of comps. But typically, if you filter by square footage, that'll get your similar house builds, especially with a similar age and in the same area. Plus or minus 20% will get those houses very similar for you. The other thing which bit me in the rear end at one time was a pool or no pool. So in some of these rental neighborhoods, pool or no pool, in some of these rental neighborhoods, you really don't have to worry about a pool. Most people don't have them, but some of the higher end, when you start getting over that 250 to 300, depending upon your market. In Houston, you start getting over the 275, really 300 mark, your odds of having a pool go up and up and up. So this is something to look at. Again, you want to make sure you look at like comps. So if this property has a pool, let's look for comps that have a similar pool. Most rental neighborhoods, if you're looking under 150, the odds of you having a pool are slim to none. And don't include above ground pools, only below ground pools. And then the fifth step is looking for likeness. So what do I mean by likeness? So when you're looking at pictures, if one property has granite countertops and one has Formica, and even if you don't have any idea what that means, you can Google it. It takes 5 seconds. You want to make sure that you're comparing granite countertop places with granite countertop, hardwood floors with hardwood floors, tile with tile, laminate with laminate. Now you can blend some of those together. Laminate and tile might be similar. I don't think we've never gotten that granular where every single property has to be tile, but you want to do likeness. So if it's Formica countertops with carpet, you're going to want to make sure your comps are Formica and carpet. If it's granite and some sort of hardwood surface, not even like it has to be true hardwoods, but some sort of nice laminate, LVT, tile, you want to make sure you're looking at likeness like that. So likeness of the properties. And then really the sixth or final step is taking the median price per square foot. So once you get the likeness down, you'll either have a bunch of properties or maybe just a few properties. If you have a lot, then start narrowing them down by likeness, the more that are alike, or start playing with some of these other values. If you have a lot of properties that are, most of them are right around that 2,100 mark. If you're looking at a 2,000 square foot house, start tightening up your square footage. If you have a lot of properties that are 2015 to 2005, start tightening up that range, maybe 2012 to 2008 on your 2010 subject property. You can tighten up some of these. You can tighten up the area to get just a handful of comps. You just want, you want at least 3 solid sold comps in the past year. And then you take that median price per square foot, so it'll say $100 a square foot, and you take that $100 a square foot and you multiply it by how many square feet your property is. So again, in the example I was using before, if we have a 2,000 square foot property, then we multiply it by $100 a square foot, and that's $200,000. The reason we do the median is because sometimes there are outliers. Just like with everything, we're trying to get as close to the middle and estimated value as we possibly can. Sometimes we have these one-offs that maybe you didn't account for, an outdoor kitchen or a corner lot here or there, or something that the comps just didn't stand out to you. Maybe they have a finished garage that you didn't take into account, or an easement on the property, or it's near a telephone pole or a power plant. Who knows, that's going to decrease its value. So we want to take the median value of those three or more comps and take that median, and that'll give us what we think the property will be worth. Alfonso, that's about as complex as it is. You want to look, again, in an area, you don't want to cross any major highways, age plus or minus 5 years, square foot, plus or minus 20%. Does it have a pool or not? How like is it? And take the median price per square foot, and then you'll multiply it by the square foot of your subject property to get the value. I don't want to use sold comps. I don't like using sold comps that are over 360 days. Again, that's a value you can play with. If you have 70 comps and you go back to solds for 360 days, basically over the past year, you could bump that up to 180 days. And if you move that up to 180 days, then you might only have 20 comps. Then you can start continuing to play with these numbers to get 3 to 10, solid comps. I like to have more than 3, but you can have 3. Sometimes you don't have 3. Sometimes these places are in a tough spot, and you have to play with these numbers. It's kind of an art. But for the most part, if you're buying in solid rental markets with a lot of activity, not even a lot of activity, just decent activity, you'll see comps and be able to make adjustments. Alfonso, I hope that helped. If it did, let me know. If it didn't, let me know. I appreciate the questions. And if you have more questions on this or want to dive deeper into one of these things or I didn't explain it very well, just comment below or let me know and I'll be happy to elaborate. Thank you, guys.